Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. Well, let's see. One, I guess, I appreciate you coming here because I know it's rush hour, right? So the traffic is insane. Seoul, I don't know how you guys do it. It takes like an hour to get from anywhere to anywhere. But anyway, I love the city. As you know, most Americans only know one part of Seoul, Gangnam, right? So we only know. So, but I'm learning some of the other parts. So how many people here have bought Bitcoin? Everyone here's bought Bitcoin. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out who's OG. All right. Who's the original? We're going to find out who in the room is the first buyer of Bitcoin. So raise your hand if you bought a Bitcoin the first Bitcoin in 2017. First Bitcoin 2017. Okay. All right. Who did a Bitcoin first one in 2018? Nobody. Okay. Well, one person. Okay. Who had their first Bitcoin 2016? Oh, okay. Anyone else? No? Okay, first Bitcoin 2015. 2014? All right. 2013. Okay. Okay, 2012. No, that's me. My first 2012. 2011. Satoshi? Satoshi here? No? All right, I got to ask every room. I figure he's hiding, right? He's like in every room. He's at every meetup. We just don't know it. Okay. All right, well, you know, if you've been in Bitcoin for a while, you know that this thing constantly changes, constantly evolves. And it was just a matter of time until video games and cryptocurrency became friends, okay? And when we say friends, like some really, really exciting things have happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what's changed in the past year or so and how video games and cryptocurrency are now like really doing some exciting things. Now, most people here being in Korea know a lot about gaming, but the thing that's really interesting is how money has evolved. So think about it. The first kind of money was people doing barter, right? People just change, hey, I have a sheep, you have a goat, you know, we'll trade. So eventually people made something to represent it. So they would use shells, right, to represent the things that they were trading. And then they used gold, precious metal, right, which had a value, and then you could change the value for the thing. Then they had these things which were basically pieces of paper, notes, and then they became real bank notes issued by banks. And now we have cryptocurrencies. So money is evolving because, you know, today we have about 180 currencies in the world, but you can see there's already 1,600 cryptocurrencies. It's probably gone up one or two while I've been standing here. So why is that? Why is there so much more cryptocurrency? Why is it evolving so much faster? This process took thousands of years to get to 180 fiat, like, you know, regular money. But it's taken us like a couple of years to get to 1,600. So why is that? Well, part of it is people also love to trade. Like trading is what like we do not just for fun, but also, you know, to make a living. So it's just kind of like part of what we do. So they've been trading. You can see these beautiful drawings thousands of years ago, and you can see people, you know, trading today. It's part of like what we do. It's like we're wired, okay? So now that we spend the majority of our waking hours in front of a screen, right? Looking at a mobile phone, looking at a PC, you say, well, trading would obviously then also occur in the virtual world, right? It's what we do. We've been doing it for thousands of years. So that's what I do, okay? I sell skins. And skins are literally just your virtual identity. It's how you look in a game. It's how you look to your friends. So we're all born with a skin, right? But that's not the only one we get to play with in a virtual world. We can change our look. We can have what looks like a tattoo. We can, put things on our hands or on our face. And if any of you have used Snapchat, you've seen filters, right? There's lots of other programs that do filters. But these are just skins. Skins just change the way things look. So here's a game many of you may know. This is a very successful game, PUBG, one of the most successful in the world, for a style called Battle Royale, right? And so this is their avatar without much going on. This is the avatar with a very cool jacket. That jacket is not cheap. It's not free. That costs money. Here's another game, okay? Here's my rifle. It's very plain looking. You see, it's green. It's not very interesting. This is it with a really cool looking skin on it. You can see, right? It's pretty sweet. Now, why is this interesting? Well, because, I get social status, right? This game has designed them so they're one of a kind, so they're unique, they're collectible, and they're valuable. So how much do you think people would pay for something like this? We just sold one, $61,000. Actually, I think that's a wrong number, right? Isn't it off by a couple zeros? Yeah, it's 3 zeros. So there's 3 more zeros. I was just thinking about this. I was like, this is how much my cab ride was. And that was, my cab ride was definitely not the $61,000. So there's 3 zeros missing here. Yes, I'll have a talk with the editor. But anyway, yeah. So 61,000 US, 66 million won. So why? Let me show you something, a little video clip to give you an idea of how people react to this. So I don't know if any of you have been that excited to get a Bitcoin. No? Maybe December when you found some Bitcoin you forgot about, right? Okay. So this is how people react to it. And so, everyone asks me why. So I figured I'd just answer the question for you. These are the 4 happy chemicals. Okay, these are the 4 happy chemicals. If you get one of these chemicals, you find something enjoyable. If you get 2, you will go back to it over and over. If you get 3, you get addicted. If you get all 4, well, I guess there's no reason to leave your house, right? So these are really, really important, and these chemicals are why we do anything. And so skins give us these really happy feelings, just like having a really nice car or a designer handbag or anything else that connects with status, belonging, and a feeling of connectedness. So our business is based upon the trading of those items. We are the largest platform in the world. So think of it like Amazon for virtual items. Okay, so that's what we do. And we have this centralized business. It's very successful. It's only 3 years old, but we dominate that space. And the reason why we do so well is because we solve 3 problems. There's a lot of theft because it's all online, and hackers love to steal things that are digital, right? You don't have to go put a gun in somebody's face if you want to steal something. You can steal it from 3,000 miles away, and they never know who took it. Cost. Microtransactions are really expensive. Like imagine, right, you're in Korea, and you try and take an item that's worth 5 cents and trade it with somebody who's in Britain. It's not possible, right? When you convert the currency, do the cross-border fees, you don't even get 5 cents, right? It's like negative 8 cents, right, just to do that. So microtransactions, we solve that problem. And then fraud. So people, if they use credit cards or a PayPal account, they can reverse the transaction. So then you sell an item, you don't get paid, and you don't have your item, so you're unhappy. So we solve these problems. We, as a platform, absorb all the risk, and people like using it. Now, this industry started, I should give you a little bit of history, 1997, right, with a game called Ultima Online. And one of our executive team actually invented that whole industry, and he started selling them on eBay. But eBay said, you know what, eventually we don't like virtual items, we don't understand them. PayPal decided to get more strict with the kinds of things they would allow. So he built his own platform, and the industry also evolved, and he focused on World of Warcraft. Who here has heard of World of Warcraft? Yeah? Some of you have? Yeah, so there was this stuff called gold, and you could mine the gold, which is kind of where the term of mining Bitcoin, I think, came from to some degree. But regardless, back then you could mine gold, people would trade it and sell it. But it had function. And that was the early days. And then CSGO created these things that were completely cosmetic, and OPSkins, our company, started trading that. So we own OPSkins. This is our company. And this is like a centralized site, right? Peer-to-peer market, or a marketplace matching buyers and sellers. And then we've launched something called Wax, which is a blockchain-based equivalent. Now, why would you want a blockchain-based equivalent? Because then people can trade peer-to-peer. And I'll tell you why that's so powerful. But here's the thing to keep in mind. Crypto users, I don't know. Some people say 30 million wallets. I've seen 15 million active. If you look at, I have like 29 crypto wallets. So, there's a lot of people who have a lot of wallets. So I don't know exactly how many unique people, but let's say it's somewhere between, 10 and 30 million. But you have 400 million PC gamers, and you have 2.3 billion people who play video games globally. So crypto solves a big problem for virtual item trading. That means that it will probably be the way the mass market starts using crypto. Because it solves problems, and there's a lot of them, and they're already used to virtual items. So if I had to bet money, I would bet my Bitcoin that the real first consumer adoption for crypto will come from video games. And if you look at the market, you'll see, you have $100 billion spent on video games. You have $50 billion of trading that goes with the virtual assets. And look over here. Silver is only a $17 billion market, and all of Hollywood is like not even 10. So it's like 10 times larger than Hollywood. And you can see that people adapt very, very quickly, and things are changing really fast. So our marketplace, just if you don't know much about marketplaces, these are kind of the things you have to do to have one that works and grows. And so what we did is we took all of that and we said, okay, we're going to apply it to essentially a token. Now, we've heard a lot of businesses that say, hey, we're going to tokenize, we're going to go down that road. I have to say, this is the first project I had read. I mean, obviously, I had wrote the white paper, most of it myself. But as I looked at lots of projects, I couldn't find ones that really, really needed a blockchain solution. So this is the first one, and I've looked at probably hundreds of white papers at this point, and there's just a handful that I see real applicability. And what we've done is we've said, look, there's this whole ecosystem you have to build to make this thing work. So there's a lot to it. We're building our own chain, and the protocol itself allows you to do a lot of things that, as you probably are aware, if you're paid attention to these third-generation protocols, you can't do with Bitcoin or Ethereum. So I think of Bitcoin as like version 1.0 of cryptocurrency. It's very slow, very expensive, but doesn't have smart contracts, right? Ethereum version 2.0. Has smart contracts, but still slow and still expensive. So now we see third-generation chains that solve the expensive and slow part. But then we're seeing like 100 other solutions to solve other kinds of problems: governance, permissions, security, and so forth. So we're building a third-generation chain. We're using EOS as a base, and then we're forking their code to have our own version of it. So we'll have our own block producers. So it won't actually be on the main net for EOS. It'll be our own version of EOS. And then we've designed the token economics, and this is for like kind of the nerds in the room who like think about this stuff. I won't bore you, but we essentially design the ecosystem so the more it got used, the less tokens would be available, and that is really good for token holders. And if you have questions about it, you can ask me afterwards. I'll happy to get into it. But it's really, really important, I think, to have that in mind, because it's like you're designing an economy. It's very, very complicated. I mean, just imagine if you woke up one day and you're like, well, I'm the central bank and I'm the trade authority and I'm the legal system and I'm the police. I mean, there's a lot to it. So I would have to say I really believe this is a complicated thing. I don't know if we got it right. We'll have to adjust as we go. I think that's true for probably most token economics. Now, crypto collectibles. This is really the main topic of tonight. I was giving you all this other stuff as sort of background to understand why NFTs, non-fungible tokens, are so interesting. So first, a definition. So fungible just means that you can trade one thing for another, right? So one Bitcoin's like any other Bitcoin. Non-fungible means you can't. So anything that's one of a kind is non-fungible. So if I'm trading coffee beans, they're fungible because they're all like each other. If I'm trading pieces of art, right, they're non-fungible because they're one of a kind. So last year, some guys who were into sort of characters and collectible things said, you know what, let's put something non-fungible, one of a kind, on the blockchain, and let's see what happens. So the first guys who did it were these guys who built a project called CryptoPunks. Nobody really paid attention to them. They actually sold a lot of items, but it didn't really catch people's attention. Then there was this project called Cryptokitties. Who here has heard of Cryptokitties? Okay, all right. So these guys really got everyone's attention because I think in about 60 days, they had generated over $12 million of revenue, which if you're an indie game developer, that is like heaven times Nirvana squared, right? Because like to an indie game developer, that's more money than you could ever imagine. Now, in the grand scheme of games, it doesn't even show up on the radar. I mean, Fortnite does that in like 3 minutes, but to an indie game developer, it's a big deal. And what happened was they unleashed a flood of other non-fungible token type projects. And they pioneered something, a protocol called ERC 721. And you all have heard of ERC 20. Okay, so that's just an Ethereum protocol. ERC 721 is another Ethereum protocol, which allows you to make one-of-a-kind items. And all it is they take an Ethereum block and they put a piece of metadata in it with a unique ID, which refers to the thing that is the CryptoKitty, all the metadata about that CryptoKitty. And every single one is different. Well, by recording it on the blockchain, it means that now everyone can see it. You can now trade it. You can now move it back and forth. And there's really no governance rules because it's governed just like Ethereum. Like nobody can really shut it down or stop it. That's huge because most tradable items, like the ones I've talked about that we trade on OPSkins, are all ultimately controlled by the game company. So if I say to a gamer, hey, you can have this virtual item, and nobody can tell you what to do with it, gamers are pretty interested in that. They like that, right? So they've unleashed what I think, now you guys probably recognize this person. Yeah, it's one of my favorite projects. It's Kim Jong Crypto. It's really funny. There's like 95,000 versions of him. It's like pop art. It's like Andy Warhol meets Cryptokitties. It's hilarious. But crypto Lambos and crypto alpacas. Now, most of these collectibles will probably be worthless at the end of the day because they're not really games. They don't have an ecosystem. But we're going to see one or two of these projects really be a breakout hit. And I don't know when. Could be a year from now, could be 2 years from now, but we know that it's going to happen. And of course, it's unleashed a trend. So 12,000 DAU, that's the total number of people using these decentralized apps today. They're called dApps, D and apps, dApps. Cryptokitties is only about 500-600 daily active users. So it's actually quite small relative to the whole ecosystem. And most of that 12,000 per day is decentralized exchanges, right? Like Fork Delta or Ether Delta, if you're familiar with that. Now, the NFT marketplace, lots of entrants have come in saying, hey, look, we want to trade virtual items. So I'm really excited to see the number of people who have said, hey, look, we want to support this. Almost every single one of these companies is creating more tokenized assets. and we love that. Now, if you go to buy a CryptoKitty, just so you understand, it's like 10 steps. It could take you half an hour, and it'll probably stop working somewhere along the way. So it's a very complicated process. And so what we did was we put them on OPSkins, and you can buy them in just a few seconds. You can use a credit card or PayPal. And it's instant. So we tried to make it easier and simpler. And that's kind of what we're going for with the Wax token. So we've designed this new blockchain to make all NFTs instantaneously tradable. So I can talk about the technology behind it. But basically, to understand it simply, imagine you have something like EOS in the middle where transactions are instantaneous. They're basically free on your blockchain. And then you have a connection to every ecosystem of non-fungible tokens, whether it's based on Ethereum, based on Hashgraph, or based on Cardano or anything else. You can wrap those non-fungible tokens, bring them into the Wax ecosystem, and then trade them back and forth. So I can literally be on Ethereum and buy something that's on Hashgraph. I could be on EOS and buy something that's built on Cardano, and of course vice versa. So that ecosystem provides the maximum liquidity for the most tokens and gives, I think, the most opportunity for people who want to buy, sell, trade. That's where this is headed. And to be honest, 6 months from now, it could be totally different. Because 6 months ago, I wasn't talking about NFTs. We didn't really know that it was going to be a thing. And to be honest, we didn't see that all the other protocols were ultimately going to embrace NFTs in the same way. So all I can say is stay tuned, because this thing changes all the time. But I'm going to tell you one other thing. We did a survey with gamers, and we asked about 1,000 gamers, and we asked them a bunch of questions about cryptocurrency, and we focused on the ones who already trade virtual items. Okay, so this is out of the 2.3 billion, right? There's like a huge number who already trade items, and this is what they said: 75% said they wish they could exchange their virtual goods into currency so they could buy, sell on other platforms. So if you don't think that gamers are going to be the first to adopt crypto, I tell you, this statistic blew my mind. 2/3 of them want more opportunities. More than half of them already own a crypto of some kind. And they all get how powerful it is for cross-border. So we currently we have 16 languages, 50 different kinds of money. So Korean won, Japanese yen, Chinese renminbi, US dollars, etc., that we already support. And 90% of those transactions are going between markets. So cross-border is huge. So our team, we've all built lots of businesses. William, our CEO, was the first institutional investor in PayPal. He's done like 200 or 300 consumer launches. Jonathan was the guy who created item trading. So this is like his third round. So just incredibly brilliant at this. John, lifelong CSGO player, self-taught programmer, and he said, there's got to be a better way to trade items on CSGO. And he and a bunch of other gamer buddies built OPSkins, and it was profitable from the first week. We've had to teach them regression testing, but that's okay. They're self-taught programmers. So if any of you know about yeah, exactly. You're like, what? But look, I can tell you the shit works. Our system does 2 million transactions a week. It never goes down. So, whatever, but you make it work. The guys on our team, we have some great advisors. Call of Duty creator, who's here knows Call of Duty? Call of Duty? Yeah, right. Dave Anthony, he's like a legend. And the funny thing is about Dave Anthony, he's like this very, very humble guy from Liverpool. And he's like, you hang out with a guy and you're just like, he's like the most humble guy in the world who's made one of the most amazing games in the world. Brian Fargo, guys probably know Fallout. Ken Cron, probably World of Warcraft I talked about from Vivendi. So we have some great folks we're working with. And then of course, we have some of the best. Oops, sorry, I skipped over that. Let me go back. Just want to let you know we have some of the best. Wow. They're amazing. Okay, there we go. some of the best participants. This should say hashed, so I need your guys' new logo, so I apologize. The formerly Blockchain Partners Korea. Okay, we'll fix that for you, so I apologize. But yeah, we've had some great participants, and I think because they understand where gaming is going and how it intersects crypto. We are actually the first, little known fact, we're the first unicorn to do a token sale, because we turn over several $1 billion at OPSkins. And so at the time, every project we're looking at was sort of like first time building a business or first time, building a technology. So it's kind of interesting coming at it from the perspective of a company that's obviously built a significant business. So anyway, that's it. I hope that was helpful. I have a few minutes for questions, and then we're going to bring up some folks and do a panel and talk about.
All right, so we can accept. So any questions? Okay, here.
So what's the reason that you're going to be launching your own EOS chain instead of just using the main chain?
So I didn't get into sort of the differences in the token ecosystem, but one of the things that drives the token appreciation is the use of staking and how you create guilds, which are the way that you decide what items get traded on the platform. So that ecosystem and that governance requires a different set of rules than what block producers currently do. So we like delegated proof of stake. We like the speed. We like a lot of the other aspects of EOS. We have a ton of respect for Dan Larimer. The reason why we do our own chain is because we have other governance requirements.
And if you're going to be using a variation of staking, then won't you have issues when you first launch with the total value of the network being low enough that it won't be too hard for someone to buy out a significant portion of it and attack it or something like that?
So the issues with sort of initial, let's say, spoofing of the system is relatively complex. So I think our initial plan is that it'll be essentially permissioned in a way that will allow a number of block producers who are fixed and known to participate until the level of the network gets to a place where it's like that risk is reduced. So if you look at like the history of Bitcoin, there was obviously, it was fraught with risk at the beginning, but nobody really cared, right? Because it was there wasn't any real money at stake. With our system, we have hundreds of millions of dollars at stake. So we have to introduce true decentralization and delegated proof of stake in a different way.
All right, and one more question. So if you're letting people buy things with credit cards and there's an instantaneous transfer on the blockchain or something, what about transaction reversibility?
So good question. We have pretty sophisticated machine learning systems that protect us from credit card fraud. And there are now some really great solutions out there for buying crypto with credit cards. Basically that crypto acts as the wall between us and the credit card risk. Once they've purchased crypto, then the seller of the item is protected because crypto's crypto, right? You can't reverse a crypto transaction. So there's kind of two levels to preventing fraud. At the first level is fiat into crypto, and the next is crypto to crypto. But I can talk about it in more detail.
Sure.
If you want afterwards.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Okay.
Okay. I run a little cryptocurrency community called Waycoin. Before I came here, I got some questions from Korean cryptocurrency community who were very excited and interested about Wax. And first question was, how is this really different from Steam market? And how this Wax platform can be safer if Steam platform is still vulnerable?
It's a good question. So the first thing is Steam, as you know, introduces barriers to trading all the time. There's currently about 16 different restrictions on how you can trade a CSGO item. And if you're a gamer and you've put a lot of time into earning your items, acquiring your items, the last thing you want to do is be subject to those restrictions. So we really believe that a blockchain-based trading platform where you're not subject to those restrictions is like night and day. And pretty much any gamer who is frustrated. I mean, there was 150,000 signatures on a petition over the last, trade restriction that Valve instituted, like in the last month. That would be unnecessary. It wouldn't happen. So I think that's probably the biggest, the biggest draw.
Okay. Second question was, are you planning to do some kind of partnership with Korean game company? Do you have any plans for that?
Yeah, so I'm here all week. So call me.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking to lots of game companies are very, very interested in this new future. And if you've noticed, we have about 20 or so NFT projects who are partnered with OPSkins and Wax. That's just the beginning. So obviously we're early days. We don't have a PUBG or a Fortnite-like success in the NFT space, but I believe that it will happen, and we'll be there first to trade.
Okay, last question is, are there gonna be some kind of legal issue for going globally? For example, Diablo 3 had the weird currency trading system, right? But it didn't really pass in a lot of countries because it was illegal or didn't have really proper laws to trade it like P2P with money, with real money.
Yeah, of course.
So how are you going to dealing with those kind of legal things or some kind of those things?
So the first thing to keep in mind is that the issuer of the item and the trader of the item in the secondary market cannot be the same. It's very important. If I create an item and I sell it to you, and then I buy it back from you, I'm now a money transmitter. So that's you can't do that. I mean, you can, but it costs a lot of money, and it's a whole new world of regulation. Now, if the issuer of the item, right, is over here, and the secondary market is over here, they're two completely different companies, right? And so they don't fall under the money transmitter rules because the issuer and the buyer are not the same. So it's a subtle but really important difference from a regulatory standpoint. So because we're not a game company, we don't create the items, we don't issue the items, we're all over the world. We're already, 50 currencies, 16 languages, and when we introduced Bitcoin, we're the largest e-commerce site in the world in terms of usage of Bitcoin. We added probably another 30 or 40 markets because they were markets we couldn't bother with credit cards and all that kind of stuff. It's just too complicated. But once we introduced Bitcoin, they're like, hey, we'll get crypto and we'll buy skins. So they were happy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Questions?
Before my main question, I want to ask about one thing. What is the exact asset in Wax? I mean, only game skin, or there could be various type of assets for games. Think, for example, in Gary's mode, there are lots of kinds of things to deal in the game.
So your question is, what kind of assets are in Wax? You mean for trading?
Yeah. What assets will be used in Wax?
Okay, so Wax is designed as an open platform, so anything that can be tokenized can be traded. Anything.
Then
It could be real estate. You could trade anything one of a kind could trade on Wax.
Then some of assets might be very big, like 1 gigabyte or even bigger. How do you
How do you trade them?
optimize them?
Yeah, okay. So here's the thing about tokenization. For anyone here who's technical, you understand what a pointer is, right? But it's like, look at it this way: a $1 bill weighs the same as a $100 bill, right? A $1 bill and a $100 bill weighs the same because they represent a different value, but the thing that's doing the representation is the same. So a token is a token is a token. So whether a token points to something that's $61,000, right, or 6 cents, or 6 gigabytes, or 6 kilobytes, it doesn't matter because you're just moving the token.
So your token don't contain the exact data.
No, well, think about it. How big is a private key? So if I have let's say I have a wallet, a Bitcoin wallet, and I have a public and a private key, and the private key points to a wallet that has 1 Bitcoin in it, or points to a wallet that has 1,000 Bitcoin in it, the private key is the same size. So the underlying asset, you use cryptography to control it, right? But you don't have to move the underlying asset. You just move essentially the token that controls it. Okay? And yes, there will be very, very, very big assets that'll get traded. We're having conversations with folks that are producing incredibly rich, beautiful avatars, like lifelike avatars that want to trade them on the platform. Those things will be, I don't even know how big, because eventually they'll come with AI. So like, here's one idea. So imagine, you could buy a full replica of Scarlett Johansson, right, as a skin, and it's one of a kind, right? So that might cost you $100,000, right? But then you might want to get one that actually comes with all of her language and her personality and her experiences that's in an AI, and that might cost you $1 million. So that world is coming where you'll be able to like buy things that are really, really rich, and they'll be way more than a skin that's 20K or 100K. But then the underlying asset won't move. It'll just be the token. So I know it's a scary idea, right? But it's coming. Everyone here seen Ready Player One? Ready Player One? Yeah. So you get it, right? Like that's what's going to happen.